Okay, so before we go on, we did not have any introduction at the beginning because we were waiting for others to come in. So now we can introduce ourselves and then we move on to the last set of functionalities we have to discuss for the day. So we'll start with myself. My name is Mildred Fakoya. I am a systems developer for health systems for education system. I'm also a data scientist and a software engineer. And I am the developer of the case-based system.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Trisha Liu, project manager for HDEP.
Good morning. My name is Dalcora Williams. I'm the HIV and AIDS program manager for Antigua and Barbuda.
Good morning. I am Judy Nisbet. I am the clinical care coordinator, HIV clinical care coordinator, NEVIS.
Good morning. My name is Nadine Carty-Keynes, health promotion coordinator, NEVIS, Singit NEVIS.
Good morning, Alexandrina Wong, Women Against Rape, Antigua.
Good morning, John L. Benjamin, the National AIDS Program Coordinator, Grenada.
Good morning, Roxanne Benjamin, Health Promotion Officer, Grenada.
Good morning, Lydia Martinez, HIV Counselor and Tester, AIDS Secretariat, Antigua.
Good morning, Asquith Bala, System Administrator, Ministry of Health, St. Vincent.
Good morning, Linda Ann Francis, AIDS Secretariat, Antigua and Barbuda.
Good morning, Denise Byers, Counselor, 3H Network.
Good morning, Lisa Llewellyn-Sprott, Health Information Systems Coordinator, St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Hello, good morning. This is Neilon Henry. Hello. Yes, I'm the database administrator within the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment, the Health Information Systems Unit, St. Vincent.
Hi, good morning. Ghislaine Paul, Health Statistical Officer, Health Information Unit, Dominica. And I also have with me Mr. Lester Guy, NAP Coordinator.
Pleasant good morning. Mr. Hannes from the National HIV Program Antigua and Barbuda. I'm having some challenges at the moment, but I'm trying to follow so that I can be kept abreast with the new developments and this training. So just saying hi to everyone. Do have a blessed day.
Good morning. This is Tiwatayo Abiodun. Used to volunteer with the HIV and AIDS Department, Ministry of Health and Wellness, St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Okay. Training.
Good morning, Shisha Adams, Systems Analyst, St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Good morning, this is Olatayo Lawale. I'm a guest on this call from Dominica.
Good morning, I'm Stephen Adifa Jamilain. I'm a guest on the training.
I'm John Waters from the Caribbean Vulnerable Communities Coalition.
Hello, morning. Arden David, Antigua, Counselor and Tester, 8th Secretariat.
Good morning. Karen Brotherson, Supervisor 8th Secretariat for Rapid Testing and Director for 3H Network. Also, we have Andrew Friars and Veron Peters from the 3H Network. They're having difficulties with the internet. Thank you.
Good morning, Leroy Ferdinand from the St. Vincent and the Grenadines from Health Security, working in epidemiology.
Good morning. This is Sipran Solomon from Health Security. Along with me there is Katilia George and Azina Borg. Health Security in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Good morning. My name is Andrew Weatherson, rapid tester for the TRH network.
Okay, have we all introduced? So I will say welcome again, and then we will go back to where we stopped. Yesterday, we discussed the developers and facilitators module, and we just reviewed that. Unfortunately, I wasn't recording, but I already put a link of the recorded sessions from yesterday on the page. So you should find a YouTube link. The reason I use YouTube and not Zoom is so that you will always have the video whenever you want it, and the Zoom will be deleted every 7 days. So I decided to export and upload on YouTube. So I will always put the link at the end of the day on YouTube, and you can always have access to all of the recorded sessions. I will share my screen again, and then we are going to look at the rest of the facilitators functionality, and then review both the participants and the guests. So for people who just joined before we went on the break, we took recommendations from yesterday. We looked at the difficulties of the users or the participants yesterday. One of the most challenging things was getting to the training site. It was a little confusing to log into the training. And so today we have changed that to have both logins on the same place. So you can log into training or log into the patient management and reporting system. Now I will log in as a participant, as a facilitator, sorry. So we looked at all of the functionalities that controls configuration of a training. We are going to look at the assessments and certification, creation and configuration. This functionality is available only to a facilitator. The facilitator controls all the activities of their training sessions or of the training that they facilitate. The developer can only supervise the activities of the facilitator, but cannot edit or configure the trainings. Every facilitator will have their own style or their own method of configuration or the way they want their training to go. And so they will configure the trainings themselves. Facilitators only get the schedule for their own training or for all the trainings that they have configured, and they also only get access to the participants of their own sessions. So they can't see the activities of other facilitators, but they can see the activities of their own trainings. The assessment and certification menu or sub-menu of the pages menu holds the create and manage training assessment link. You create a training assessment by filling the form with the red border on the left. The system automatically generates an assessment ID and an access password. The assessment ID is the unique identifier for an assessment. So you always use the assessment ID to pull out an assessment. You also have the access password that you give, or the access code that you give to the users. Every time you refresh your page, the assessment ID and the access password changes. So the assessment ID you are going to make note of, or the access password, is the assessment ID and the access password you have on the form just before you click Create Assessment. The date of access is going to be the date you want the assessment to be displayed on the participants page. If the date is in advance, the participants will not see the assessment until exactly the start of that date. When the participants see that assessment on their page, they have to enter an access code, which you will give them. So if you allow the assessment available so that the participants will know that there's an assessment coming up, you can send the access code on the day you want them to start the assessment. So without the access code, participants cannot start an assessment. So I'll create an assessment here, and we want them to access this assessment starting from today. You also want to put an end of access date. So if you want to do this assessment on Proctored or Proctored, you can decide a time frame in which the participants are to take it, because you want to go through what they have submitted or grade it. So you want to say, for instance, you want to give them a 2 weeks time frame. Anytime that is convenient within 2 weeks, take this assessment. The assessment is going to close up by, let's say, on the Saturday, 5th of February. On that day, the system withdraws access, and that assessment will no longer be displayed on the page for the users. You can put the access date, end of access, to be 1 year later, but lock the assessment as soon as the participants are done. If you have several group of participants, you want them to take the assessment at different times, or Proctored, you don't want a whole crowd. Maybe you want 10 people at a time. You give the access code to the first 10. Once they finish, you change the access code. And even if they can see it, they cannot access it. You give the new access code to the next set. And then when they are done, you change it. If they're not taking the assessment on the same day, you can lock and unlock the time you want them to take the assessment. So the type of assessment, the system allows or groups the assessments into 3 types: certification, pre-assessment, or summative assessment. Now, the standard definition is the certification is like an examination that has a purpose. You want to use it to certify that somebody can actually do this. Pre-assessment is an assessment that doesn't really, you don't use to make a decision. You use to make a decision about how your training workshop will go, the topics you need to cover to get the knowledge that the participants have prior to the training workshop. And summative assessment you give at the end of the workshop to see what they have learned during the training workshop. So you can use them as you want, but those are the 3 definitions. You want to keep to a convention within a country so that you'll know what each of them mean. So let's say this assessment I'm creating is going to be a certification, or let me say summative assessment. And it's going to be an assessment under HIV management, and I'll create assessment. As soon as this is created, it is populated on the table of my assessments. My assessment only gives you the list of assessments that you created. It won't give you the list of assessments other participants created. Now, it is time to add questions to this assessment. You will enter the assessment ID here to pull out a question form where you can enter questions. You click on the Add Question button and select the type of question you want to add. Is it multiple choice, true or false? Is it a comprehension or an essay, or fill in the blank? If it is a multiple choice question, you click on multiple choice, create question. It gives you a multiple choice form to enter the question you want to create. The form has an automatically generated question ID to identify the questions. Now, you don't need this ID for anything, but the system needs the ID. When the assessment is displayed on the participants page, it randomizes the question ID. So there is no question 1 or 2, it's an ID. So if you have 10 participants in a room It is difficult for them to discuss a question because it's just going to be a waste of time to start telling somebody, what is your answer for LMAKJO? And they start scrolling through all of their questions to see what question has that ID because it's not ordered on their page. So it's a way of control for people to do their work independently. Then you can type in the question text, choose the system module that question is about. And this is for your own analysis to see which module participants are filling the questions on. Put 4 options. It allows you to add 4 options to multiple choice. Select the correct answer and the feedback you want displayed on the page so that when you release grade, it releases along with the correct answer and the feedback so the participants can read through what they did, what the correct answer is, and an explanation of the answer. Every time you create a question and submit, the page refreshes, gives you a blank form to create the same type of question. Once you are done with all your multiple choices, you will go back to the assessment page. You will enter the assessment ID again and now select a different type of question to create the next type. So if we want a true or false question, you click on true or false, you enter the question. There are 2 options. You choose the correct answer to it, and then you select what section of the system or what module of the system that question is about and give an explanation to the answer. You'll do that for every of the type of assessment. Once you are done with the assessment, you will send the assessment for review, submit for review. Now, you are the only one who reviews your assessment, but you don't want the assessment to go directly to the participants without your review. So if you are creating this thing in advance, let's say you have knowledge that you are going to do facilitate a training workshop in the next 2 months or the next month, you are getting your materials ready, you are setting questions, you just type them in a hurry, but you submit it for review. And then you will have to go to review and assessment to look through all the assessments that you have created, read through the questions and the answers, and then you select reviewed and approved. Only when you have reviewed and approved that this assessment will display on the participants page, regardless of the date selected. Even if your date is on the same day, once the assessment is not reviewed and is not approved, the participants will not see the assessment on their page. If the assessment is locked, the participants will not see the assessment on their page. Once you do that, whenever you have a locked assessment and participants cannot see it, you will find the assessment ID on a button on this page. You get to that page by clicking on Lock an Assessment. Once there's a button here, it means that an assessment with this ID is locked and participants cannot see the assessment. You click on the button and it unlocks the assessment. Then participants will be able to see the assessment on their page. So I'm going to log back the assessment here. Another way to lock an assessment is during an assessment proctor. So if the participants are taking an assessment and you want to watch the assessment live, maybe you have a Zoom call and you want them to have their cameras on. You want to proctor the assessment. You click on the assessment ID. And then you will see the question ID and the participants as they submit each question. And when they tell you they are done and they are logging out and you need to log, you click to log, but you want to confirm that they are done before you log. So you'll see if all questions have been submitted. And then you can tell them, okay, your questions are submitted. I can see all your answers. You can go. So that is the process of proctoring on the system. You will need an external link or a Zoom or a meeting link to get your video on, but you can watch their submission as they submit on this page. Then you can also grade and assessment. So when a participant submits assessment, you will click on the assessment ID, and then on that page, you will see the name of the participant and the button beside it that says grade and assessment. Because nobody has taken, there is nothing on the page. So once it is blank, it means no participant has submitted any assessment for grading. Once it is populated, you will see the name of the participant and a grade button beside each name that appears on the page. Once it is graded, you want to release the grade and feedback. Again, there'll be a button with the name of the assessment ID or with the assessment ID on the button for all the assessments that have been graded. And then you click that button to release the grade. And once it is released, participants can now see the feedback and the grades under grades and feedback. And this concludes the facilitator module. Questions?
No.
Okay. So we will look at the participants' role of the system. Now I use role and module interchangeably because the modules of the system are defined as roles of the system for authentication. So anytime I say module and role, I mean exactly the same thing. So the participants are welcome to a homepage that has the announcement as the first thing. Whatever is placed under announcement by the facilitator will appear just beneath a green header. On the same page, you have two sections, one to show all your schedules and one to show all your resources that has been uploaded for your use. The schedule is going to give you the title of the session, the date that that session starts, the time, start and end time, and a link to click to join live. If there is a password for that link, it's going to show up here. The resources hold any material that was uploaded by the facilitator of the training. So you can see we have a training workshop master plan. You can download this to look at the whole different sessions and the plan of all of the trainings we are going to have. And then you can look through your schedule and see if you want to switch a session that is repeated later on. You can't attend a particular session, you want it out of your schedule. You can look at that, mark it out, send an email for that to be updated. Then the presentation slide for each of the training workshop is uploaded here after the training. So at the end of this session, you'll see a new slide presentation of the participants and the guest module. Any material that is useful for the participants, whether they're related to the training or not. Let's say we are talking about HIV management. There is a HIV treatment manual that is from WHO, from any organization. You want all of the participants to have that manual. You can upload it here and tell them to read through this, download this. There's a guide here about this. So it mustn't be your own manual or your own work. You can upload anything, books, resources, whatever will help the participants. Because the idea is, or the assumption is that all of the participants will retain their training accounts and they can always come back to download things on the training. They can always be scheduled for new trainings in the future and the account always stays. So if you're doing live trainings going forward, you might want to do it on your live system so that, and use the same login details for the patient system on the training system so that participants will have lifelong access to all the resources that they always need. And they'll also have access to look if there are new resources or new guides about the knowledge they need to have on both the system and anything that involves data entry outside of the system. On the left side of the page, the home link brings you back to this home page. The manuals will give you a link to download end user manual. Now, the presentation slides you get at the end of the training workshop does not contain fine details of everything about, of every explanation about the roles or the topics. It gives you summaries and key points. The end user manual is going to be the main manual where you have every definition from the tiniest detail of the system to the most significant detail. If the facilitator uploads videos, or if the manager wants to upload videos to stay on the system, you can also put videos here. Link to videos will appear here. Videos will appear here. So it depends on where the facilitator or the manager decides to upload things. In the country, you might want to decide on a uniform standard and tell all facilitators or all managers, please put videos or links on the resources, or put them on announcements so people can see that there's a video there, or put them under videos. Sometimes you want to put them under videos and under announcements so that people that will not just click on this can see on announcement that there is a new video. So they will be able to use any part or put it everywhere, as important as it is. I want the participants to see it. Then the pages now hold the functionalities of assessments. We have the certifications. If you create an assessment and you release the assessment or review and approve, and it's not locked and it's on the same day or within the start and end date, it is going to show up here. If you create an assessment that is a pre-assessment, it will show up here. If you create an assessment that is a summative assessment that is released, it will show up here. Now, because the summative assessment we have on the system is locked, if I go back there to unlock it, you'll find that on the participants page. So I have an assessment I want to unlock. So now if all of you check your assessments, you are going to find this assessment on your pages. If I go back there to the participants page, and I go to summative assessment, which is a type of assessment, I will have the assessment here. I have the ID, but I need an access code to be able to access this assessment. When I enter the access code, I change it to be something easy, but in reality, you put your complicated auto-generated 5-digit code, and then you click on start. And this gives you the form where you will look at the question, select an answer, submit. You can submit after each question, or you can submit after the last question. Any button, submit button, you click submit all. Right now, you can't take this assessment because I disabled submission until the right time when you need to take it. Okay, so grades and feedback. When an assessment is graded, you will get the graded work and the score here. You will get the feedback here. I'm going to switch from this system to a local system for you to see how the grades and feedback works. Can you still see my screen? I mean, see a new screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Sorry. So I'll be using my local system to connect to the database, and I will log in to a participants page. And then you will see how the grades and feedback are displayed. So you will find the assessment ID, the type of assessment, and the score. For feedback, you can click on what the assessment ID and see what the question is and what the answers are, and the explanation of the answer. So this is how the grade and feedback works. So if you have a pool of questions that you want the participants to take so that they can understand, or you want to set your question in such a way that it gives a lot of knowledge. So you have questions and answer, and by the time the participants can go through every question and go through the answers and are able to repeat it back, they already know the system properly. So it's not an assessment that makes participants students, but it's an assessment that makes them understand what they don't understand. So when you set your questions, you want to make it a question that gives more knowledge, but not just to put participants under pressure to want to pass, but to understand. And so by the time a participant passes or gets a good score on their test, it is almost completely certain that they are able to do the correct data entry on the system. And so this concludes all of the functionality of the participant's role. The guest role has exactly the same functionalities as the participants, except for the assessment and certification functionality. So a guest will not see any assessment and certification page, but they will have access to everything else. In addition, a guest will have access to all the schedules of the system and decide what they want to go into. If they want to join, guests are people who are not part of the training workshop for knowledge, but maybe observers, maybe they just want to learn something, but they're not the target audience. Those ones are the guests. And so they don't take assessments because their attendance and their participation is not certain. So the assessment link is not displayed on that pages for guests. And this concludes the education resource and training portal of the case-based system. From tomorrow, we get into the patient management and reporting system.